Hey everyone, I'm Jay.
I'm Sophia.
And I'm Scott, and welcome to Witches Betwixt.
Today we are finally going to be talking about Sabrina, season 2 and 3. Chilling Adventures, by the way, not the original one from the 90s.
Oh my god, I forgot that the last time we talked about it was season one.
Yeah, it was
I'm
forever.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm so
actually, I'm
sorry.
also sorry because it took me forever to watch season 3, but thanks to quarantine, finger guns,
Miss
um,
Rona.
Miss Rona doing her thing, yeah, I was able to watch it. So yeah, I'm caught up. Now, I do have like a synopsis of season 2 up in front of me because I don't remember all of the details from season 2 because it's been a
Me
while.
either, actually.
It
So,
was pretty. It was like, oh no, Sabrina's dad is Satan. Oh, he's gonna get out of hell and he's doing a bunch of stuff. Oh, but look at this. They imprison him in her boyfriend, and now her boyfriend goes to hell, and Lilith wears the crown, and it's real cool. And Father Blackwood's a bastard and made out with the kids and like ran off with them. Not literally made out, like actually cut that out. Father Blackwood's a bastard and like ran off with the kids and like took him off to you don't know where, which you later find out is Europe because he's doing time magic with an egg from like Loch Ness or some shit. And like he's real bad, and a bunch of people die, and Ambrose ends up breaking up with like a partner and stuff. And there's like a couple of orgy scenes, and yeah, that's season 2.
excellent recap. Excellent recap. This is a top quality podcast, so we are professionals in every capacity. So if you're here for that,
You know,
stick around.
we're actually pretty good at podcasts. Like
I
since
think
I've
so
been on
because
like jumping on other
podcasts,
people's podcasts,
yeah,
I've
podcasts are
I've like
just cool conversations, and I think we keep it
yeah.
together.
And like I'm getting practiced at that shit. I may be a little goofy, but you got to be a bit of a personality. Like
Oh
no one's
yeah,
gonna listen if you're a boring like bunch of
honestly,
porridge.
I love the way we do the podcast. I love what we're like. Let's
Hmm.
just talk about a fucking topic and fucking go for it because that was the inspiration behind this. It was me and Scott talking in the kitchen for fucking hours, and I was like, "Why are we not recording this?" And that's how it
Yeah.
started.
I
And
really
it's
remember too that conversation. Like it
mm-hmm.
was to the point where like my throat hurt. We talked for so long.
Yeah, yeah.
God, I've been having stuff like that in the DKMU Discord lately. We've just been like chilling out there and having the biggest, longest discussions with everybody. It's been a fucking blast.
Yeah. I think I'm I think I'm finally starting to find my groove with this like self-isolation kind of like
Hmm.
adjusting to this a little bit. I'm kind of finding my groove with it and seeing like, it's not all bad, and as long as I can keep myself uh engaged and stimulated, like mentally stimulated. I think that's important. Um but yeah,
Yeah.
so Sabrina, season 2 and 3. This is not going to be a particularly organized kind of conversation at all. We're not going to go episode by episode. We're just going to talk about highlights, things that we like, things that we didn't like, and we're just going to go for it. So, um, hmm, I probably
Hakate!
probably most of this discussion will center around season 3, which I'm sorry because that's just the most recent one that's like fresh in all of our minds.
I
Yeah.
don't think anybody's going to be upset about us not recapping something from a year ago.
No, no. Um, But yeah, so does anyone want to kind of like launch? Does anyone have any particular burning things that they want to talk about with Sabrina?
That makeout scene at the end was real good. The whole
Bruh.
Hecate shit, us calling on ourselves. It was real feminist.
I shit you not. Like when the Zelda um Mambo Marie, that's who it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, the Zelda Mambo Marie scene, like toward the end. You could have sworn it was like the Super Bowl in this house with me and Joyce because we were like, what? Like we were like screaming. like we were
Yeah, it
like
was real good.
we were like
my
two bros watching the game. It was so funny.
my process of that scene was like, what's happening in this scene? I don't understand what they're like. At first, I couldn't understand what energy they were trying to like give with the dialogue and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then all of a sudden it was slowly like dawning on me, and you could see it in my eyes. Like Darian's sitting there like watching it, and my eyes are getting like wider and wider as like I'm starting to understand what's about to happen.
You're like,
And I was like, wait, no. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, gasping queer.
Screams and gay. Gay screaming. Ah. And in that moment, every gay in the world just all at once.
Rejoice.
Huh?
I said rejoice.
Yes. It was weird. Like it did throw me off too, because like the lead up to it, I was like, oh, where? Like I was a lot like you, Scott. I was like, where are they going with this? I don't understand. And then I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And then and I was like, man, these witches are they just follow their heart, you know what I mean? They just whatever they want in that moment, you know what I mean? And like I thought it was cool because like most practitioners of witchcraft are, I feel like most of us are queer in some capacity. I don't really know anyone that's super this hetero, you know, that fits that mold. So
I know a few.
Yeah, I do know a few, but I would say
Me
like
too.
most people I know don't, you know, subscribe to that. So I
Mhm.
was like, I thought it was cool that they portrayed witches like I know witches. You know what I mean? I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing about the show is like it's got really good representation in the third season. Please say what you're gonna say, Scott.
No, I mean that's a great point to bring up. I think it definitely did really like better with representation in the season. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like how I kind of hate Sabrina.
Oh, don't even get me started. Actually, get me started, because this is the place to get me started.
This is kind of what I was hoping would happen. It's like I'm ready to be here.
I feel like the whole show of Sabrina, it's not about her, it's about her supporting cast and how she literally just rides off of the efforts of everybody else, and it's like the epitome of like that teenage white girl who never has to learn any lesson because everybody else is always taking care of it for her, and everybody else around her is infinitely more well developed and interesting than she is.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I actually like I can feel Ambrose's like impending aneurysm, like in this show, like this.
She's gonna get him killed.
She is.
She's gonna get him killed.
And he loves the shit out of her, and it sucks. It sucks that he loves the shit out of her.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
sucks because like he's one of my favorite characters, and like between like him and Prudence, I feel like she's gonna get both of them killed, and I fucking hate it.
I was bummed about the Prudence Ambrose little split there.
Breakup.
Yeah.
But he had like a breakup last season, so I feel like that's just gonna be in vogue for him, as it's gonna end with a breakup every goddamn season.
Yeah. I mean, I get where Prudence was coming from, but at the same time, I'm like, y'all are a little dramatic. You could calm down, you know.
It's meant to be a drama.
Yeah. But like sometimes it's a little over the top. A little bit.
How did y'all feel about the European pagan versus like satanic Luciferian conflict, which was like so weird that they brought Hecate into the mix, and it's like, what are y'all doing? Is this like American Gods now? Is this gonna be like Godfighter 2020?
Well, a lot like I've heard like I just saw somebody talking about like they felt like it was this kind of, you know, the hubris, they said, you know, like at first, you know, it's Lucifer, and then you turn against Lucifer, but then you're completely against like this worship of nature, and then, you know, suddenly you're all for Hecate. And I kind of I didn't agree with that really. I mean, I don't agree that it was like this hubris. I mean, I just say I'm like it's plot, right? But I mean, like, not thinking about it as a witch, just as a viewer, I thought it was really cool.
Yes.
It was like a really cool storyline. No, of course, like the witch part of me, of course, is sitting there kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Because I'm like, that's kind of not how it works. But I enjoy it for the fiction, you know. Yeah, I enjoyed it for the fiction.
I thought it was I thought it was interesting how they kind of so they've created this. Actually, I kind of want to circle back to one of the first things that Sophia mentioned in this episode, which was revealed in season 2, was that I almost said Sophia. Sophia's father is Lucifer. No, Sabrina's father is
You know,
Lucifer.
you're not. Okay, real funny point. A nickname they actually gave my dad when we worked in construction was the Crown Prince of Darkness, because he always
Yikes.
wore black. He was evil as fuck, and he would tear down people in any way that he wanted to or needed to.
Well, there you go. Well, I will say that you are far more likable than Sabrina, thankfully. So.
Thank you.
um. So Sabrina, right? So remember? Okay, let me go back to season 1. Remember in season 1, she was able to go to limbo because she's half mortal, correct?
Yes.
You know what? Never
Yes.
mind. I just figured out.
I
I
don't
thought it
even
was a
know.
plot hole. So
It
her
could be like
mother,
she's half Catholic or some shit.
right? Okay, never mind. I just realized I talked myself into a circle. I was like, but she's half, she's not even really witch. She's half devil and half, or she's celestial.
God.
I guess that's what they put it, like angelic or celestial, however they put it.
Mm-hmm.
So she's half celestial and half mortal, realistically. For some reason in my head, I forgot that her mother was mortal. I thought, I got it mixed up. Anyway, we're gonna retcon that.
Well,
Yeah,
her mother was. Oh no, right. Her dad is.
Her dad's the
Satan.
witch. Well, her
Yeah.
Edward Spellman, who is the father figure that she thought, her dad that she thought was her dad. He's a witch. Mom's immortal.
And her dad's actually Satan.
And her dad's actually Satan. So realistic, yeah, okay. So that makes sense why she was able to go in there. Back to like talking about her as a character. She's annoying as fuck. She never learns her lessons. And she's a shit friend. But I'm curious if they're kind of making that point because she is half of Lucifer. Like, he's a shit guy too. Like, there's nothing particularly nice about him.
I have had this exact conversation with Darian, and I mean, it's funny because I totally know where both of you are coming from.
Yeah.
Sabrina is incredibly irritating. Like, she's just frustrating. Like, the actress is great. Kiernan Shipka
She's
is
doing
awesome
a great
as
job
Sabrina.
at playing an annoying character.
But the thing is, it's like she's very much the privileged teenager.
Yes.
And
oh my god, yeah.
But I will say I have a certain level of empathy for the character, only because I do believe that it's completely intentional. That this is this kind of like the only thing is I don't know why that they're carrying it out so long.
Yeah.
But I truly do believe that it is like leading up to some kind of I don't know if you want to call it like a redemption arc or what, but it's leading up to some. Yeah, and I guess that's the kind of, and a part of me wonders if they're doing that because the comic books are so much darker. It's completely bleak. There is no hope.
Is Sabrina the same in the comics? Is she very like privileged and I do what I want? And
I didn't read enough. I've only read I think the first 3 or 2. So I really didn't read enough of them.
I do remember from the original show from the 90s that Sabrina was actually kind of similar to the Sabrina in this show. Like, it was like, Sabrina, you probably shouldn't do that, and then she would do it. You know what I mean? Like, she cast so many spells on Harvey that she, like, maxed out her spell limit she could cast on him, and he was immune to magic. So, like, she was kind of... She's not as horrible... Like, she wasn't as horrible in the original show as she is in this, but also she wasn't faced with these kinds of dark perils.
Right.
That she was.
I also think too, like there are some times too where she shines and she's not frustrating.
Yes.
I think in particular she really shined with the murderer, the ice cream man, who sold his soul to her father and everything. That showed this certain level of it showed who she will be and who she's not yet. It was this kind of level of responsibility, like real responsibility, and a certain almost level of friendship that I feel like she's not necessarily capable of yet.
Yeah, like she.
I was still mad that she had to be fucking bailed out of that, though.
Yeah,
Which situation?
the ice cream man thing. Lilith
The
had to
ice
come
cream
in.
guy, like, it was Lilith who saved her ass. Like, Sabrina got saved there, really.
I mean, I'm talking like when she gets him at the end.
Yeah, with the morality
I mean,
of the
yeah.
choice, basically.
Right. Like
Yeah.
when when she first appears to him like a child, and then she
Yeah.
becomes behind him and everything.
Mm-hmm. Like
Um,
I like her. Like when her moral compass does show through. Like when she wants to make the right choice, I'm like, okay, cool. But when it's just the way she goes about it, I'm like, you just like she thinks she can do anything.
well, that's the problem. It's like Ambrose said to her in the first season. You think that the whole world has to,
Revolve around.
bend to you. Like the
Yeah.
world of the supernatural just has to completely break for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not how it's going to work. And I mean, he's right.
Mm-hmm.
Like even with not to jump topics, but I guess it's just how this episode's going to go anyway.
Yeah.
The whole the time loop situation.
Don't lie. I'm
That
I'm split on the choice
it's
of
funny
time
because
travel.
I have a prediction.
Mm.
One, somehow she's gonna get out of it because she always does.
Right.
Two, it's going to both first hurt them and then somehow help them in the future.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Just because of what's coming the next, in season 4.
Yes. What I'm assuming is the Eldritch horrors like Cthulhu and shit
Right,
like that.
right. And I'm thinking somehow they're going to be able to play to this time loop and do some weird shit. Although I mean, so far so good. I just really hope that the writers, as awesome as they are able to do an arc like that, if that is true, and not have it flop. Because as we all know, time travel in shows gets really
Yeah, I
weird.
mean, when me and Joyce were progressing through the season, and we were like, okay, so like literally the world fucking ended. Like, how are they going to play this out? You know what I mean? And then we kind of saw like the title of the next episode, or was it like the synopsis or whatever it was, and Joyce was like, they're gonna fucking do time travel. Fuck. We were like, man, the only show that does time travel correctly is Doctor Who. You know what I mean? Like that's really the only show that really truly kind of gets it right.
I think Avengers actually did it pretty damn good.
Avengers was good too. Yes, I will say that Avengers was pretty decent.
Oh, the movie. Well, yeah, I was gonna say, and the only movie I think to do it right was
With the
Avengers.
Endgame?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And they had to be perfect because that's a huge franchise there. So you can't fuck that up. But yeah, and we were kind of about it, and then okay, so like the world ended, and she seemed like genuinely like broken. You know what I mean? Like I thought that at the point when she got trapped in hell, I was like, all right, she has to learn something from this. She fucking has to learn something from this.
Yep.
I'm like, who's
I know where
there?
you're
Who's
going.
there to fucking help her? And then it turns out it's her. However, that works out because time travel bullshit. So anyway, so this Sabrina comes to her and says, with all fucking seriousness, and is like, you must close the loop. You have to. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then I really thought that she was going to. I genuinely thought that she was going to, because
Me too.
I'd be like, okay, so she's matured, she's learned some shit, the world fucking ended, and she was able to make it not end, and she goes back, and then she talks to herself again, and she's like, I mean, like, I kind of want to be like Queen of Hell, but like also a teenager, ha ha ha. And I'm like, like, I was like, the world just fucking ended, and you're just, oh, it made me so mad. I was so mad.
Yeah, it was.
Honestly, I feel like they're kind of doing it to make you hate her. I feel like they're really going to build it up so that she fucks up so bad in the next few seasons that like she has to admit that she fucked up and own up to it, and like finally have to like be responsible and grow from
up.
it.
Yeah. I really hope that in season 4 they at least get her on the path to that, because I think if I have to watch a whole, like an entire season of her still fucking up, still making the same choices, still, like just flying by the seat of her pants kind of thing, and being amazing, I think, I don't know, at that point I might be done with the show, because like it's just not good writing at that point. You know what I mean? Like you're into
What
your
gets me is
fourth
like
season.
all the all the other stuff about the show is good writing though. Like the
Yes.
spells in season 3 was great.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the other stuff, the lore, the world building, like the introduction of the pagans and like getting people to like understand like Hakate and the Green Man and like there's so much going on there that's great, but I feel like ultimately unless they're doing it on purpose, what they're doing with Sabrina is kind of missing the forest for the trees, you know? Like,
Mhm.
hopefully I'm proven wrong and they actually do like a redemption arc and she grows up and figures it out, and that would be great. But if they don't, and like you said, it's more of the bullshit, I don't have the fucking spoons for that. I will
Yeah.
watch it just for like the spells and like take notes because like I'm that bitch who likes to look at other people's spells just so I can steal little bits here and there and be like, I see what this herb does. Fuck you. Ha
Oh,
ha. I
totally.
think your
Yeah.
smell knowledge.
Join the club.
But like other than
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. And at first, Joyce was kind of like when they first introduced the pagans. So I guess I kind of want to talk about like the pagans versus the satanic witches versus all the different types of witches. So they've determined that magic has a source. So whatever source you subscribe to is where your magic comes from. So the satanic witches get their magic from Satan, and the pagans get their magic from the old gods or nature itself. I'm not really sure how they're doing that. That's kind of like what they implied. Like either they get it from the old gods or from nature itself. I
Right.
haven't
it was
really.
implied that some of them are straight up like mythological beings,
Yeah, like
like
Cersei.
how or like Pan.
Yeah,
Like they literally had Pan there.
right. But I'm curious, wouldn't Pan be considered like one of the old gods?
Mm-hmm.
Look, yes, technically, yes, and in a lot of ideas, Pan is very synonymous with the idea of the Green Man. There are
Yeah,
schools of thought that roll them all together into one, like
They all
amalgamous being. There's
the witch's
also separate
devil.
thoughts that they're all
yeah, the
like
witch's devil.
the same version. Yeah, they're like the same version, but like different regional representatives of the same thing. You know, kind of like how we talked about dragons in the other episode and how they look different location to location, right? So like, yeah, technically you're right. It's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, so yeah. So speaking on that, like, at first Joyce was like, I don't like how they're introducing the pagans as like bad guys. And I'm like, I'm okay with it. Like that's what I said initially. I was like, I'm okay with it. Like someone has to be the bad guy. Why not the pagans? Or we've been the bad guy since forever. So whatever. That's fine. Because ironically, the satanic witches are the good guys. So I'm like, this is kind of cool. So fine. The pagans are the bad guys and the satanic witches are the good guys. Okay. Um so I was okay with it at first, and then when they were like, "Oh, we have to do blood sacrifices because the Green Man's gonna come back for the Great Flowering, and then everyone's gonna turn into plant zombies," I was like, "What the fuck? Why on
Yeah, that
earth?"
part was stupid as fuck.
That was so fucking dumb. I was like,
Let me be really, really real. If it was Carnunos, it would be a whole lot of fucking and a whole lot of drinking and a whole lot of
right.
eating food and
It would be a constant
partying.
party.
Yeah, it wouldn't be everybody turns to plant zombies and dies. It would be world gonna be fucking boogie nights for 3 months.
I know, and I'm kind of like, I mean,
Yeah.
really, if the pagans, brought back the Green Man and the old gods. I'm like, that's what it would be. It'd be like fucking party, like a nonstop party. We'd party ourselves to fucking death. You know what I mean? Like that's what would.
Like fucking fountains of wine and orgies in the library.
Which,
That's exactly why, like, that's why I said, like, I try not to think about that as a witch and
yeah.
try to just enjoy that for the fiction. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, for me, it was a fun story. I like the idea of how Ambrose went insane for however long, and then
Mm-hmm.
slowly got himself out of it, and kind of had to reteach himself magic, I suppose, and insert what happened. I mean, it was weird. The whole plant zombie things. It was kind of like, okay, I mean, it's funny though. Like, at some part of me, like when I saw them, I was like, that's very folk horror-y.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of enjoyed that vibe, but it was a little
Campy.
yeah, I guess a little campy. It was not what I expected.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but I mean, the plot went nicely, and I understood where where it was all coming from.
The one thing I thought was kind of cool, so they're establishing that power comes from particular sources, right?
Hmm.
So the only thing that I am kind of curious of, and I don't know if they explain this, I missed it or whatever it is, like, so the satanic witches, they get their power from Lucifer, and then they literally imprisoned him, so naturally he'd be like, no, fuck you, I'm not giving you any more power. And so they kind of like went on this quest for power, like to get some, to get some of that good shit.
Yeah.
I thought the creepiest fucking thing was the fucking cheerleaders in the stone circle. I was like, what the fuck is this? Did you find that weird?
Can you wait? Can you believe I don't remember what you're talking about?
What? Okay, so the witches, they did a bunch of things to try and get power. Like, remember they dug up the stones, right, from out in the forest,
I remember.
and they brought them into the academy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they did something with the ringing of the stones. They tried to amplify. Oh, that's what they did. They used the ringing of the stones to amplify their power to call the I guess the hedge witches is what they called
Hmm.
them. So you have
Hmm.
Pesta and fuck,
Holda,
what was the other one? Gryla.
Gryla,
Yeah.
or yeah, Gryla, right?
Yeah, and then Mamba Marie, they thought she answered the call, but actually Prudence invited her separately.
Hmm.
Um which she was a great character, by the way. And
I love.
I'm so glad that they didn't write the voodoo practitioner as a bad guy.
Yeah, it's actually funny because somehow I didn't think they were going to. I didn't get that vibe from the way the story was going, and there was no reason to think it. Um, at least for me, now that I look
Hmm.
back, it probably could have easily been a thing. But I really like that the Mambo was not evil. I love that Prudence had this amazing idea of like he knows our magic, but he doesn't know all magic,
Right.
right? And I love that, because Mambo Marie is her powers are the Loa, you know,
Right.
so it's a whole other source of power
And I love
that.
when Zelda was all like, up in arms about her, and she was like, she's a Catholic. And I was like, oh shit, I guess that would be right. Because they do use. Isn't like Catholic saints and stuff used in.
They're used as sort of like symbols, right? Like they're
Mhm.
not
Like, they
it's not
don't
the same thing
worship
as like
them.
Catholic folk magic, right? Like whereas like I work with the saints of the Catholic tradition, when you see saints in a voodoo space, they're kind of fill-ins or faces for the Loa. Um, and that kind of happened because it was a way for slaves to practice their religion without letting the slave masters know,
Hmm.
and that's kind of how that happened.
Ah, so I guess there's some Catholic influences
Yeah,
into voodoo.
absolutely. I mean, like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I just thought that was cool. Like, I thought it was like funny how like Zelda was like, she's a Catholic, and I'm like, no Catholic person on the planet would ever think that like a voodoo practitioner is a Catholic. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it
I
was
actually
just.
don't remember her saying she's a Catholic. That part I don't remember.
Yeah, she was. It's when they're in, I guess, like Zelda's office or something, and Prudence was there, and Prudence was like, "Well, I invited her separately," and then Zelda was all like, "I don't trust other witches." Blah blah blah. She's a Catholic, and I was like, "Mm." So they're establishing like this power source, right? So then remember when they invited the cheerleading squad into the stone circle? It's
I
coming
do.
back
I
to
remember that.
and then they did this like cheerleading routine. I really felt like that was just a reason to have a bunch of teenage girls in like cheerleading outfits. I really feel like that's all it fucking was.
Really?
Yeah, I really felt like it was fan servicey, and plus, like Sabrina was in that cheerleading outfit for a good amount of time during the season. I just thought it was really unnecessary.
Huh. I mean, I will say I don't want to say I don't want to say I disagree because I watch a lot of anime lately, and like
It's
my
very
idea
fan
of fan
servicey.
service
Yeah.
is it's definitely not that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, I would say it didn't feel that way. It just felt like it was like they had to. I felt like the whole idea was like once again the witches had to infringe upon the mortals and take them out of their situation and kind of force them to kind of almost perform
Yeah.
without any sort of like thanks, and then
Yeah.
once again they just thrust them back into the world, kind of like, okay, we've used you, leave.
Yeah.
So for me it was just kind of this idea of like how the supernatural world infringes upon mortal life and then mortals are completely ignorant to it, you know what I mean? And that was
Mhm.
what it was for me.
Yeah, I guess I could see that in a
um
way. But it was also just like, it was like very rude of them to like oh, we're just going to sap up your youthful energy and like send you back. See you later, like
it was
yeah.
I mean, all in all, it absolutely was, really rude, but
Yeah.
I,
Speaking oh, and that was the other thing. So, energy sources. So, here's what I'm trying to understand of what they're trying to establish in the world building. So where do the hedge witches get their magic? If every magic practitioner has a source which they get it from, where do the hedge witches get it from?
and you see, I was a little confused here because at one point I thought the idea was still like
Still Satan?
Satan,
Because it seems like they were at
but
one time a part of the Church of Night and then they were excommunicated.
the thing is that the whole idea is that they no longer get their power. They no longer get their power from him.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to wonder if like the hedge witches have a certain level of knowledge of something that maybe the others don't possess. Maybe
That's what
like
it
some
seems
form
like.
of they have power within themselves somehow.
Or maybe they're really trying to establish this like Hecate, mother of all witches kind of thing.
Unless that's totally where they went to, right? Which is
Yeah.
really cool. I mean, like I mean, we could go there,
Yeah, we could go there. Is that the
let's
scene when you were saying when we were talking off recording when you were like I cried?
yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm sitting there watching this scene and I remember all of a sudden it was like it literally affected me, right? Like, when she's in this graveyard and she's crying and all the witches and the warlocks are standing there looking on, and all of them are like, and Hecate, we call you, and like the wind picks
Mhm.
up, and then for her to like, there were things that she said, like Sophia said, we call on ourselves, and
Mhm.
and the power that has been denied us, imbue us with them. I I think that there is something about that like it made me tear up. This idea of calling on the witches of the past and the present and the future.
Mhm.
I do that in my practice.
Mhm.
Um, and I've done that way before that show.
Yeah.
Um, and it was and I remember in the middle of it I'm sitting there tearing up, and I actually like didn't even mean to, but this like I felt the pitch of that ritual, like like how like there's sometimes you're in a circle and like it just reaches that thunderous pitch that you
Yep.
feel it. It's like you feel like you're on the verge of like disintegrating into
Mhm.
everything and everyone around you. And all of a sudden, like the ritual releases, and then and you've done magic. And I almost felt that watching that scene in this fictional show,
Yeah.
and for her to, to especially when she yells, "And we will never forget you again," and she throws her hands down, and there's this kind of this boom,
Mm-hmm.
this force of energy. And it's funny because I remember I had in high school in my younger witchy years, I remember my school was plagued with for a week with threats of gun violence.
Mm.
And I remember I was scared for my friends, and it was funny because I remember this selflessness that I had. And I remember I was like, one day it was like that Friday, I was like, holy shit, like I'm a witch, like
Mm-hmm.
why am I sitting here just like letting this happen? Do something about it. And I remember I sat down in my book and I wrote a little ritual. And I used like planetary magic, I think. I don't remember. This was a long time ago. And I remember the very end of the ritual, I plunged my dagger into soil. And when I did that, there was this kind of this feeling,
Mm.
that same, boom, this very finite sort of shake, this energetic sort of quiver.
Right.
And I don't know. I saw something in that scene that I was like, holy shit, like it was.
It reminded me of how I felt about the exorcism scene from the first season. Like how I was like, "Oh shit, that's fucking powerful." And
Mhm.
I wrote that down verbatim so I could modify it for my own use. And this is another one. This is another one that I really want to go back and write that down verbatim and tweak it slightly, but maybe really not all that much because it was amazing. It was really really well done. And I'm really curious because I know, like what you were saying before we started recording, that the writers only pull from like books and other fiction kind of things.
I think he was saying like it was normally like the practice, it
Mm.
was normally the practice of writers to pull from fiction. But I think what he was trying to get at was that he himself, um, or they aren't, is what I
Oh,
think, or at
okay.
least
So
not
that's what you were
fully.
saying. Okay, because I was like, wait, there's no way because, so yeah, it seemed like they are pulling from actual like witchcraft texts and occult, history and stuff like that. So you can
Hmm.
tell they're definitely pulling from those sources. And I was just floored by that. I just really want to take that for myself and modify that maybe even a little bit. But I was so curious. I'm like, okay, so they were all in a circle, and I'm thinking just like in a really abstract way. I was like, the filming of this scene. Okay, so the filming of this scene, they're all in a circle. Like I am very curious if something actually was felt
I was going
during
to
that
say
scene.
that.
Yeah.
I would love to ask them if, because like I know Kieran Shipka, she doesn't, she's said she's not really she's not into it. She said like she. Doesn't judge or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, it's just not my thing. She was she's like, I know that there are people on the set or who work on the set who are, actual witches or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love to just be able to ask them, what did you feel?
Yeah,
Did you
like
feel anything at all?
mm-hmm. And I'm sure that to a degree, like, and the actress, I don't know her name, whoever does play Zelda,
Oh yeah, I
she
forget.
was so good. Like she was so powerful in that scene. Just as an actress.
Mm.
And a lot of ritual, I don't want to say a lot of ritual is just acting the part, but a lot of ritual is theater. It's like
It's
it
psychodrama.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
psychodrama. It comes from that. And I just I believed it. I believed it. She sold me on it. You know what I mean? I was completely
I
100% hook, line, and sinker for
yeah.
her as a powerful witch.
I was as far as I was concerned in that moment, I was with a coven and
Mhm.
I was doing that ritual with you, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Like I
that's
kind
how
of
I
put
felt. I
myself
was
in there.
mhm. I was there. I felt it. It hit me through a computer screen.
Mhm.
And now what that was, I argue that that was just being moved, right?
Mhm.
You were moved by something that you find familiar, and I would say sure,
Mhm.
on a mundane level, absolutely, I am familiar with that sort of that power, that feeling of exaltation, when you're in the presence of something,
Right.
and or that you've just worked your will made manifest into the world, and the idea of that is familiar, but like I said, I would argue that I think that level of acting, that much commitment to what she was saying,
Mhm.
whether she meant it or not, or
Right.
just sort of meant to really be embodying Zelda Spellman, I don't know. And I don't even know if it matters. Because
Exactly.
at the end of the day, an actor playing a character it's like an archetype, right?
Mhm.
It almost takes a life of its own. Many writers and actors say the same thing. It's as if, they say it's as if the character wrote themselves,
Mhm.
you know? Um,
Especially when you
even as a
have
really bad,
the
huh?
especially when you have the right actor for the right character. That's when it really it clicks.
Right, right, right.
But actually I kind of want to circle back to Hilda's plotline in season 3
Mm-hmm.
and how horrible that was. Like just how like horrifying for her. Like Hilda goes fucking through it. And she is like the most fucking pure, but also I'm gonna say pure in the sense of like she genuinely cares about people. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She just wants
Mm-hmm.
everyone to be okay, and and sometimes she just wants everyone to have mooncake and just enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, I mean, and realistically, if we can all be honest here, her idea was about to work.
It was.
Moon idea,
Uh huh.
she was making it work. So she's the only other person that actually had an effective idea that would have empowered them.
Mm-hmm. Because it was working.
It was
Um.
absolutely working. Yep.
Yeah. But I'm talking about like the what happens to her with her interaction with Cersei.
Yeah, that scene, like, it pissed me off, not in like the sense of it was bad, just in the sense of like, I don't know. I
By
just wish
which
there was more that Hilda could have done.
Yes. So when that scene, so like it's her and Cersei, sitting down talking or whatever, and Cersei's, a little standoffish as I guess we would expect Cersei to be. Um, so she's talking about, oh, Cersei's like, oh, you're a weaver. That's what you do. Like she was kind of complimenting her, I suppose. She was a
It
little.
almost felt like backhanded.
Oh, you think so?
I that's what I was getting.
Huh.
It felt like she was like insulting her, and it was sort of like this. It was like a jealousy.
Oh yeah, it could be.
That's where I think it was. I
Yeah,
think
because
it
it
was
seems
like,
like Cersei's only power is transformation. It seems like that's all she is capable of doing.
and divination. Apparently, she was a bit of a seer. She did have
Oh, right, right, yeah.
similar powers to Hilda.
Yeah. So they're sitting there chatting, and then Hilda, did she have a spider in her hair? I forget what it was. Something in
Something,
regards to
yeah,
or a spider was on her
yeah.
hand or something, and then she was like, "Oh, I keep them as pets, like I love spiders." And me, I thought that was very like endearing, but I guess to Cersei, who is a pagan and wants all creatures to be free, she took that as Hilda was imprisoning spiders and um, you know, treating them poorly. And she, you never know how a spider. How do you know how a spider feels? And then she takes her
Right.
wrist and she mumbles some spell, and that kind of goes from there. But Hilda was just like, wait, like Hilda knew that Cersei did something. And I just feel like in that moment, like we know that Hilda is a badass witch. We know this. Like they've
Hmm.
established this in the show. I'm like, you mean to tell me that Hilda just let some bitch cast a curse on her? Like, are you serious?
Right. And I guess it was because they wanted that final scene with the final showdown with Cersei and her, which I mean I've
which
watched
was
that scene
amazing.
100 times.
Yes,
And I think that that's why, right? They wanted that scene to be all the more
gratifying.
meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, I
Hmm.
love the idea of that Hilda didn't have to transform her into anything.
Right.
Hilda's magic was incredible. It was, it was this very homely puppet,
Hmm.
not much more than that. And yet she made her suffer a lot more, I would say,
Yes.
or at least physically,
Yes. And I mean,
than
not to mention, I really also want to give the makeup department huge props for Hilda,
yes,
especially
that
for
was
me being an arachnophobe. Like I am a severe arachnophobe. I do
I
not
didn't
like.
know that, I don't
Yeah,
think.
I am. Me and spiders are not friends, and unfortunately, in every animal oracle, everything it says I need to do more work with the spider, and even with like DKMU stuff, like Ellis is associated with spiders. So there's a lot of like things in my life saying that I need to get the fuck over it, but it's really hard. so
Yeah, yeah.
so for a lot of the spider scenes, I like watched with one eye open kind of thing.
Aw.
Yeah. Like Joyce would watch it and be like, "Oh god. Oh, yeah, close your eyes." and I'd be like, "Oh god." um but I did
That's
see,
cute.
the transformation and
Yeah,
wow. Y'all did a great job.
they really did. That was outstanding. It really was. It didn't look campy. It didn't look,
Mm-mm.
it didn't even look 90s. It was
It was
really
really good, and I like that they used more practical effects instead of like CGI
me
stuff.
too. Me
Yeah,
too.
practical effects are always better, always better.
But and it's funny because I know that's what a lot of the writers were saying, that they aim to get a lot of inspiration from the 90s to 70s, like that those
Hmm.
over
Like the
there.
campiness of those movies and
Right, but they
shows.
tried to kind of bring it into today.
Hmm.
And I think that they really do that really well.
They've definitely found their groove in that way because I mean, especially like the way they write Sabrina's friends. Like I can't, I couldn't actually. I don't know if I have any. Oh no, I do. I do have some quote unquote, genuine Muggle friends. But I can't see those friends, like I can't see me walking up to them and being like, "Guys, I'm a witch. We need to go to hell and rescue my boyfriend." Like I
Yeah.
couldn't see them being like, "Oh yeah, we're down, cool," and
The,
like, "Oh, let me grab my shotgun and a baseball bat," and like,
I feel as if though that like at one time I probably would have had that, because the people in my neighborhood that I was friends with, and I was always very open and honest about my witchcraft. I never hid it from anybody, you know what I mean?
right,
And a lot of them, like, unfortunately too many of them were too interested in getting themselves into really terrifying like situations, like, like, oh well, if you ever go to this sort of place, I want to go. And I was like, it's
okay,
dangerous.
yeah,
And they're like, oh, but you're there. And I was like, thanks, but
yeah, but I got enough work to do, like if I'm doing this particular like intense thing, like I have enough to focus on.
yeah.
And in that way, and in that way, I kind of feel like Sabrina's like a little bit of a bad friend, especially when like she comes in on them and they're like playing their music and stuff, and they're just being teenagers, which is what they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, Roz does have the cunning, so I feel like she is a bit more sympathetic to what Sabrina is going through on the other end of her life. Um, but yeah, it's like she just kind of barges in. They're like, "Hey, you should hang out with us. You should, like play music with us." And she's like, "Yeah, I have more important things to do." And I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
"Eh." And then all of a sudden she barges in and she's like, "Hey, stop everything. Stop being like, stop living your life, and we have to go to hell and rescue, Nick." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Although I will say that whole band thing was a little weird
The
at
band
first.
thing was dumb. Okay, so I felt like, so there seems to have been like like a campy 80s music vibe to the whole season, especially because like they teased it with like a music video, which was cool.
Yeah,
It
I love
was
that music video.
campy but cool.
I know, I loved it.
Yeah, I was in. I was okay with it. So that was all right. But like all the cheerleading stuff and then the band, and I was like, "Ugh, when did they become musicians?" Like,
That was my whole thing. Like I was like, well, this was never stated.
yeah,
But I guess it was like you said, it was supposed to like we were just talking about. It's supposed to kind of be like that harken back, that kind of
yeah,
call out to a different era,
yeah,
you know, where that was like a really popular trope in movies, especially
yeah,
like old horror movies.
yeah. They would
Like
have a
that was the
band.
thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um so I mean I got it after, but I do remember saying to Darian while we were watching, I was like, when were they in a band?
Yeah.
Like when? And it looks so like established. Like it's like all of a sudden it was just like as if it was like part of their everyday routine.
Right, yeah. I was like,
And I was like,
oh,
okay.
okay. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was too. I was like, okay. I mean, cool, but okay. The other thing that I kind of want to talk a little bit about, Theo's romance.
Yes, yes, yes.
So me and Joyce were actually a little split on Theo's romance.
Okay.
So I thought it was like, so my initial reaction was, oh my god, okay, great. You have a trans male character with
Hmm.
a presumably cis male love interest. And I was like, that's great. I love that because usually the way they usually go with the trans characters is they make them very manly and straight and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I loved having a uh gay
gay
sort of
trans gay
trans
trans
man.
gay trans boy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought it was great. I thought it was so like gratifying and just like it was just so nice to see that.
Yeah, I
Jo-
like that.
Joyce interpreted it in a different way, which I thought was so interesting. So we were watching it, and they were like, "I don't like that they have like a male love interest for Theo," and I was like, "Why?" And they were like, "Well, I feel like they're just trying to make it seem like he's still a girl and still likes boys." And I was like,
Ugh.
I don't think so, though. I genuinely don't think that that's what they were doing.
No, I mean, at least I know I can't say no, absolutely not. That's wrong. I'm just saying, um,
I highly
like
doubt
the way
it.
I saw it too was, especially after we find out that he's basically a fairy, right? Um,
Yeah, he's a hobgoblin. That's what he was.
right, of
Yeah.
Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
Puck.
Mhm.
Um, Puck in the original story, and there's a reason that too, right? Like it was based because in Midsummer's Night's Dream, it's very homoerotic.
Mhm.
Um, this idea that hobgoblins and fairies and the fae, they're very like sexuality. It's kind of like yes question mark,
Mhm.
um, kind of like this omnisexual, pansexual kind of thing, that run rampant throughout even older stories, right?
Mhm.
So it kind of was like this beautiful. I think that's where they were just trying to go. It was this kind of sexuality and pardon me, and sensuality is not based in a binary sort of. I don't know. It was I don't know. It was I thought it was poetic. I thought it was.
I thought it was great that they, like they took that chance to do that. And I
I
think
think
the only
um
other time I've seen that was it was a show on Freeform with the camp. It was like,
oh
do you remember what I'm talking about? Because I think you clued me into the show. I think.
yeah, which is ironic because I never even really finished it,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it was like a summer camp, and of course,
And it was
there's a
haunted or
killer at the
whatever.
camp, yeah,
Yeah.
like that kind of whole plot. But the trans guy character in there, like, actually had a male love interest, which I thought was awesome too. And really, that's the only other time that I can remember that I've seen that in
Yeah.
media. So I thought that was
Especially
super cool.
especially to have like like a more like a more I don't want to use like femme, I guess, or like the idea of like a more like a submissive sort of
Mm-hmm.
gay male trans character. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, like a
instead of
softer
like
type.
making Theo like the top, quote unquote. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. I just loved how like it was purposely queer. It was purposely like counterculture. It was kind of like, to me, it was like this gigantic fuck you to this kind of heteronormativity.
Mm-hmm.
And and in all honesty, it kind of felt good, because after once what's his name died, uh Ambrose's boyfriend.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Leo?
Huh?
Leo, was it? Luke.
No,
Luke?
Luke.
Yeah.
Once Luke died, I don't know, I was like, I need more queer shit.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of odd, and I was kind of about the whole Ambrose Prudence arc.
A
But
lot. I mean, it was funny. I mean, I'm not saying I agree with this necessarily, but there were a lot of queer people who were a little upset.
yeah, that they
Um,
quote unquote made him go the straight path. But it's not that what it was. I mean, he is
no,
who
of
he
course not.
is.
Right. He's identified as pansexual even
Mm-hmm.
in the books, even in the comic books. He actually actively says, "I'm pansexual."
Oh, okay. Yes, I mean that's just
Um,
his character. So really, he likes who he likes.
right. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if in season 4, it's maybe another unmet, maybe an envy,
Mm-hmm.
non-binary person. Um, I wouldn't be at all surprised. But I will say I did need more queerness. So for me, I liked the whole thing
With
with
Theo.
Theo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Also to the act.
no, I was gonna say while we're on the subject of love interests, the whole the love spell to bring Roz back.
Yeah.
Do you think they're setting this up for a Sabrina and Harvey, like they should be like they're getting back together, they're gonna have a fling, or
I think yes. I think that this is going to be one of those stories um uh where Roz is like they're together for now, like they're like a teenage love, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But they're gonna, Roz is gonna meet somebody, and or at least eventually. I think it's gonna be drama, right?
yeah.
Only gonna be kind of hurt feelings.
So do you think Roz is gonna find someone else, or do you think Sabrina's gonna like? Do you think I don't know? Do you think it's gonna be like, oh Harvey, you cheated on me with Sabrina?
I'm hoping it's not that.
Oh yeah, me too. Because that would,
Like with
because like they're all
everything,
friends, like that would be really
right?
fucked up.
I'm really hoping, but the problem is that, like you said, Sabrina's a bad friend.
She is a bad friend. She's a terrible. Though she did like with the whole like she had to go kiss Harvey or
Right. I
something,
mean,
and she didn't. So that was cool.
unless the only other thing I could think of is that they're going to do that thing where something's going to happen and Roz is going to pick up on the fact that they're kind of falling in love again,
Mm-hmm.
or well, more like have always been in love in the first place.
And like maybe the
Um,
cunning will show her that.
and I think though that Roz is going to handle it with grace. Like I mean to say, if that happens, I
Right.
think if they go that route, it might be one of those things that she'll be upset about and then get over. I don't know. There's tons of different ways that they can go about it, but
From what I've seen from Roz's character, I think you might be right about her handling it with grace. Like I think it might be a thing of like the cunning shows her what Sabrina and Harvey truly feel for each other. And I think Roz might be the one to say to Harvey, like, yo, dude, like, you love her. Like, you need to
yeah,
understand that. Like,
yeah.
no hard feelings, but you love her. So do that?
I completely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Completely.
So writers, if you're listening, don't let me down, okay? Don't let me down with that.
Seriously.
Don't break my queer little heart. Come on now.
Also, don't kill Roz
Yeah, don't kill Roz.
or
Yeah,
Theo or any of them, really.
I know. Fuck. You could kill Sabrina though. That's fine.
Make Sabrina mature and don't kill
Yeah.
any of the main people.
So yeah, I really hope the writers I really hope they don't let us down with the whole Sabrina and Harvey thing, and I hope
Mhm.
that they make Sabrina learn from her bullshit, because a
Yeah,
time loop,
yeah.
like we're starting season 4 with time loop shenanigans
Oh,
and Eldritch
and of course
Horrors.
Eldritch Horrors. I think Eldritch.
Right.
Some part of me thinks that the Eldritch Horrors are going to be the worst thing. The one
Yeah.
thing that, like, you know, in some shows I've learned is that sometimes time loops will correct themselves, like
Mm.
over time. Sometimes harshly, sometimes not.
Mhm.
But I think, like I said in the beginning, I think it's going to somehow help them in some stupid kind of way, in a
Mhm.
good, cool kind of stupid. You know, just one of those like ironic. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I fully believe that the writers just sit around and they get high as balls and they're like, okay, so what if this fucking happened, you know?
I
And
think they're
then,
gonna have to with this season. I
yeah,
think it's involved like a lot of hallucinogenic, like ethanogens, and
yes, and
like you
H.P. Lovecraft books.
yeah, yeah. I think that's like the only way to do these next couple of seasons. Another thing too, if I could say to the writers, even though I'm sure definitely not listening,
Yeah,
but
just as a
the
general.
crossover with Archie better be good, and that better not look nothing like Archie or
So,
Riverdale or whatever.
oh, with Riverdale, yeah. So because they have mentioned Riverdale a couple
Um,
times.
Aunt Hilda's first victim
Yeah.
was one of the biker gang from Riverdale.
Ah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Now, do you have you watched the show Riverdale?
Nope.
Is it
Fortunately not.
is it I don't know, because it's like a supernatural kind of show.
It had a season in which um things got a little supernatural. It had to do, unfortunately, for a lot of the nerd community, though, a lot of the nerd community took a lot of offense because it kind of, I mean, unintentionally, they didn't mean it in a negative way, but it was
Not
what
received
was it
well.
called? Gargoyles and Dungeons.
Okay.
And it was about like a game that was kind of like people were becoming obsessed with this tabletop game,
Uh-huh.
and it was definitely like this analog for, you know, the Satanic Panic and
Uh,
Dungeons and Dragons.
I
And
see.
you know, a lot of people in the nerd community were like, "Can we not go here?" You know, like
Right. Like
we
we've been
just
there, done that.
yeah. And I mean, I get that. You know, like we're part of that community too. You know, like we know what that was like. But I mean, we weren't, you know, we weren't experiencing that, but
There was still
we
some residual for us growing up. I mean, I was born in 91, so there was still some
right.
residual, feelings about that kind of stuff growing up.
Right. Which is a big reason why I was never like, I do remember in my early youth of having a run in with Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon. Do you remember the cartoon?
No, I never remembered the cartoon.
Um and I remember my mom kind of being a little uncomfortable
Hmm.
with it. But I of course was a little younger at the time and I didn't quite understand why, but you know, like, but anyway, what I'm trying to get at is Riverdale. It's very different. It itself is not. It's a huge. It's like it's basically almost like a soap opera almost,
More like a teen drama.
like a teen drama.
Like I'm
Yeah,
trying to think of a teen drama. Like what, Degrassi? Wasn't that a popular show when we were
yeah,
growing
only
up?
more violent.
Yeah, Degrassi with violence.
Yeah, um, and like some supernatural elements. Even one of Miss Wardwell's victims was a character from the that game, the possessed game arc of that
Mm.
show or that
Mm-hmm.
storyline. Um, he somehow was the pizza delivery driver to Miss Wardwell.
Oh.
He was a young blonde kid, and but the weird thing is like the writer hasn't explained it yet, but apparently there's some weird dynamic between Riverdale and
And
um
Greendale.
Greendale.
Yeah, like
Apparently
they're
there's
close
some
to each
weird
other. Yeah, like they're situated weird on the planet, because we know like Greendale is literally sitting on a portal to hell. So that explains a lot of shit about Greendale and why it's so weird.
right, and I mean like you can imagine how it radiates out.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the actors kind of said as much. They were like, you know, Riverdale is right there, so you can imagine how it kind of radiates out into other places.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, so that's kind of where we're going to go here. But I wonder now with the Eldritch Horrors loose, I wonder how much the witches are going to have to, march themselves over to the other town to figure something out.
Especially because a lot of, and that was another thing that I was kind of iffy on when they showed the green man flowered and all the plant zombies and basically the world ended.
Yeah.
So they weren't exactly clear if it was the entire world or it was just Greendale. They weren't.
Oh, I think it was the entire world.
The entire world, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what they implied, but I don't think they really did a super good job of portraying that, especially because the show is centered in Greendale. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was a bit odd, but I mean, there's only so much. They have limitations of what they can do.
Of course.
But yeah.
But
I mean,
all in all, what are your opinions?
Overall, yeah, I think it was. Overall, I think it was great. I mean, it's incredibly entertaining. I still love the spells that we're able to get from this show.
Yeah.
The aesthetic of the show is always fucking on point.
Scrumptious.
I also hope that Zelda has a bit of a redemption of her own, in the sense of she needs to be way nicer to Hilda.
Yeah.
Because
she's kind of a yeah.
She needs to be a lot nicer to Hilda, and I hope that Hilda, in turn, kind of I don't know, grows a pair of herself and really stands up to Zelda when Zelda gets out of control.
Yeah.
I hope that happens too, because she's an incredibly powerful witch, and sometimes she gets downplayed a lot, and it's she's incredibly intelligent and powerful, and she knows her shit. So, for Zelda to dismiss her as much as she does is really to her detriment and the detriment of the Coven. But yeah, overall, I thought the show was incredible. The aesthetics are always there. Music is always great. It's a good show. It's just I find it so funny that the main character is the character I dislike the most.
But I mean, you know what? I mean, to kind of wrap this up for me anyway, I feel the same way with Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Harry Potter himself used
too.
to irk the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I could not stand Harry Potter. I love the Harry Potter series, don't get me wrong.
But Harry himself.
I can't stand Harry.
Yeah, he is kind of an idiot. Kind of an impulsive idiot.
And that drives me nuts. But once again, that was part of who he was. And I think that I don't know, maybe that's why I'm so sympathetic to Sabrina, because Sabrina's such a Gryffindor.
Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
They just jump in and they're like, I'll deal with it after.
Yeah, I'll deal with the consequences after I fuck everything up. Oh no, I fucked everything up. Help, friends, help.
Right. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to season 4. I think it's coming out soon, right? I think
sooner than later, yeah. But of course, with all of this, I mean, with everything going on,
I don't know if they
wrapped
Netflix
up shows.
Filming yet. Because if they wrapped up filming, they should be able to get it out relatively on time, I think.
I think I read June. I think we should see it in June or something, June or July. But
Not too bad.
No, I'm excited. But the only thing is, I do know that The Witcher's pause. Shows like The Witcher, they stopped filming.
Well, good, because I still have to catch up on that. I'll have to catch up on that too.
Yeah.
I have to watch that whole series, and we need to have a talk about that.
Yes, we do.
Yes, I know. I also want to play the games too, but the good thing, I actually might stream that on our Witches Betwixt YouTube. I think that would be a fun activity. Yeah, I think we can kind of wrap this up here. I mean, we talked about Sabrina for a good hour. So I'll just kind of do my ending spiel here. So we are on the big 3 social medias: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our handle is Witches Betwixt, all one word on all 3 platforms. We all check each one except Twitter, which is pretty much exclusively run by me, but feel free to message us on any of those platforms and we will get back to you. If you want to add your post to our online community, you can use the hashtag WBTWXT. And the the links to our official Facebook group, Discord server, and website are in the show notes below. So I think that is it there, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye, everyone. Be well.
Bye.
Don't forget to vanish.